Ji Yun's breath caught in his throat the moment the first blade was drawn. The sudden clash of metal rang out like thunder as Kyung-hoon surged forward, slashing clean through the first assassin with a precision that stunned Ji Yun to the core. He had never seen Kyung-hoon fight before, not like this. Not like a warrior forged in battle, sharp and ruthless. Ji Yun stood frozen, heart pounding, eyes wide as Kyung-hoon moved like lightning, dodging and striking in perfect rhythm. "Stay right behind me!" Kyung-hoon shouted, his voice cutting through the chaos. An assassin broke away from the circle and lunged at Ji Yun. Instinctively, Ji Yun stumbled back, narrowly avoiding the blade. He wasn't trained for this, but he wasn't helpless either. His eyes darted around, calculating quickly. As the attacker charged again, Ji Yun grabbed a handful of dirt and threw it into the assassin's eyes, then kicked a loose rock to knock him off balance. It worked, but only for a moment. Before the assassin could recover, Kyung-hoon stepped in, blade flashing, finishing him off with a clean stroke. Meanwhile, Min-suk was holding his own, knocking down enemies with sheer force. He lost his sword at one point, flung too far to retrieve, but that didn't stop him. With a roar, he charged at an assassin and tackled him to the ground, punching ferociously. More and more attackers came. The fight felt endless. And gradually, exhaustion crept in. Ji Yun, trying to stay low and out of reach, saw another assassin aiming straight for Kyung-hoon's back. Without thinking, he threw himself forward, pushing Kyung-hoon aside. The blade sliced across Ji Yun's side. He cried out, staggering backward, his hand instantly pressing to the wound. Blood seeped through his fingers. Kyung-hoon turned, eyes wide with panic. "Ji Yun." "I'm fine," Ji Yun lied through gritted teeth, swaying. Jun-ho, meanwhile, looked like a deer trapped in the middle of a wildfire. He tried to stay behind Min-suk, who, even bloodied and bruised, fought like a wall refusing to fall. But the numbers, they just kept coming from every corner. Kyung-hoon, panting, blood on his face, looked over at Jun-ho. "Listen to me. You need to get to the palace." "What?" Jun-ho shouted, blinking through the chaos. "Take my royal emblem. Find Tae-jin. Get help, fast. But. Go." Kyung-hoon growled. "It's the only way we all survive." Min-suk understood. Without hesitation, he charged at the nearest group, swinging wildly, drawing their attention and protecting Kyung-hoon and Ji Yun. Jun-ho, hands shaking, nodded and ran to the nearest horse. He looked back just once, just long enough to see Kyung-hoon holding Ji Yun close as assassins swarmed. Then he kicked the horse and rode. Dust flew behind him as he disappeared into the distance, toward the palace. After what felt like hours, Jun-ho's horse stumbled to a stop at the palace gates, nearly tossing him off. He was soaked in sweat, dust streaked across his face, his eyes wild with panic. "Halt!" the palace guards shouted, raising their spears. "I'm Jun-ho, scholar of the astrology department," he panted, nearly falling off the saddle. "Let me through, please." The guards didn't move. Jun-ho fumbled into his robe, his fingers trembling. "I said, let me through," he cried, yanking out the royal emblem Kyung-hoon had given him. The golden glint caught the sunlight, and the guards' eyes widened. "That's the crown prince's seal," one of them muttered. "Assassins!" Jun-ho yelled, still trying to catch his breath. "The crown prince is under attack near the forest road. They're going to die if you don't hurry." Without another word, the guard swung open the gates and rushed him inside. Moments later, Jun-ho was kneeling before Tae-jin, breathless and pale. The young prince stood tall in his ceremonial robes, his face hardening as Jun-ho recounted every harrowing detail. Tae-jin's eyes flickered with urgency. "Get the horses ready. Assemble every capable man, we ride now." Within minutes, a squadron of elite guards thundered out of the palace, Tae-jin riding at the front with Jun-ho guiding the way, clutching the reins as tightly as his resolve. Back at the battleground, the scene was grim. Min Suk was kneeling, using his body as a shield to protect Ji Yun's limp form beside him. Blood poured from a wound on his arm. His breathing was ragged, but he refused to fall. Kyung-hoon had gone feral. His eyes were bloodshot, and every movement was lethal. Blade after blade fell beneath his sword, but he didn't even notice the wounds decorating his own body. His only focus was Ji Yun, keeping him safe. "Don't you touch him," he roared, cutting down another assassin with brutal precision. "Don't you dare." Then, the sound of galloping hooves. Kyung-hoon turned sharply as Tae-jin and his guards burst onto the scene. The assassins barely had time to react before they were overwhelmed. Arrows flew. Swords clanged. Screams filled the air. The tide turned within minutes. The leader of the assassins tried to run but was tackled to the ground by Tae-jin's captain. "Alive," Tae-jin ordered coldly. When it was over, the battlefield was scattered with bodies, most of them enemy. Kyung-hoon fell to his knees beside Ji Yun, clutching him desperately. "Ji Yun. Wake up. Please," his voice cracked. "You promised you'd stay with me." Tae-jin walked over, heart heavy at the sight of his brother covered in blood, cradling someone in his arms. "Hyung," Tae-jin said gently, "you're alive. Thank the heavens." Kyung-hoon didn't look up. "Ji Yun isn't waking up. Is he breathing?" Kyung-hoon shook his head, barely, he whispered. Kyung-hoon gently stroked Ji Yun's hair, his voice soft and shaky. "Just hold on, please. I'll get you help. You're going to be okay. You have to be." Tae-jin knelt beside Ji Yun's unconscious body, sweat on his brow and urgency in his voice. "We need to get him back to the palace. There's no time to waste, Hyung." But Kyung-hoon didn't move. His arms tightened protectively around Ji Yun. "No," he said firmly. "What do you mean, no?" Tae-jin shot back, confused. "He's dying, Hyung. We can't take him to the palace." "Not like this," Kyung-hoon said, his hand stroking Ji Yun's hair. "If we do, everything will be exposed." Tae-jin frowned. "What do you mean, everything?" Kyung-hoon hesitated, jaw clenched. Then, slowly, he said, "Ji Yun is a man." The words landed like thunder between them. "What?" Tae-jin blinked, clearly thinking he'd misheard. "And we are already married." "I did it to protect him," Kyung-hoon said quietly. "And because I love him." Tae-jin stared, stunned, trying to process what he'd just heard. He glanced between Kyung-hoon and Ji Yun, realization dawning in his eyes. "Does anyone else know?" he whispered, ensuring no one else could hear them. Kyung-hoon shook his head. "No one apart from you, Min Suk and Jun-ho. If the court finds out, they'll tear him apart. That's why I won't take him back there. Not like this." Tae-jin rubbed a hand down his face, overwhelmed but focused. "There's no time to debate. If he can't go to the palace, we'll take him to a nearby healer. Jun-ho, Min Suk, escort the prisoners back to the palace and report everything. Go." Min Suk, bleeding and bruised, nodded grimly. "We'll take care of it," he muttered. As the two rode off, Tae-jin and Kyung-hoon took Ji Yun to a nearby quiet hut, tucked into the trees. An old healer welcomed them in with a grave look, immediately tending to Ji Yun's wound. Hours passed. Ji Yun lay on the futon, deathly pale, wrapped in clean bandages. The healer wiped sweat from her brow and turned to them. "He's stable," the healer said. "But unconscious. He'll need rest and time. His body's been pushed to the brink." Kyung-hoon exhaled shakily, the tension finally showing in his face. "You should let me see to your wounds too," the healer said, gesturing. Reluctantly, Kyung-hoon allowed it, though he kept glancing back at Ji Yun as if afraid he'd disappear. When the healer stepped out, Tae-jin sat beside him, arms crossed. His expression was softer, but the concern in his eyes was unmistakable. "So, you knew all along?" he asked. Kyung-hoon nodded slowly. "Since the beginning. And you're okay with it?" "I love him," Kyung-hoon replied simply. "I've never questioned it." Tae-jin was silent for a moment, staring at his brother like he didn't know whether to shake him or hug him. "You do realize if this gets out, if the ministers find out you married a man, it could cost you everything." "I know," Kyung-hoon said. "And I don't care. Let them strip me of the title. Let them hand the crown to you. All that matters is that Ji-yoon lives." Tae-jin's expression darkened. "You idiot." Kyung-hoon raised an eyebrow, not expecting that. "You think this is just about titles?" Tae-jin snapped. "Have you forgotten why you fought this hard? Why we've been biding our time and playing this dangerous game? You wanted to be king, not for the title, but to break free from our father's corruption. To bring down Jin Suk. To stop that monster's trafficking ring with the Ean Empire. You told me yourself that no one else had the power or will to change things." Kyung-hoon clenched his fists. "I haven't forgotten." "Then act like it," Tae-jin said, voice low and urgent. "Hyung, if you let the clock strike midnight without returning, you'll lose the right to the throne. All your plans, everything you and I have worked for, it'll die here. And Ji-yoon, he risked everything to help you. You think he'd want you to throw it all away for him?" Kyung-hoon looked at Ji-yoon, lying still on the futon. His chest rose and fell shallowly, his face peaceful, unaware of the war raging outside, and inside Kyung-hoon's heart. "I can't leave him like this," Kyung-hoon whispered. Tae-jin stood. "You don't have a choice." The room fell into silence, heavy and unrelenting. After a long pause, Kyung-hoon finally spoke. "I just need a moment." Tae-jin gave a tight nod. "You have until the last bell. After that, it's over." After his brother left, Kyung-hoon sat quietly at Ji-yoon's side, his hand gently clasping Ji-yoon's. His heart was pounding, not from fear, but from the weight of choice. The palace bell would soon toll. Time was running out. Suddenly, a faint movement stirred under his hand. Kyung-hoon snapped his gaze to Ji-yoon, who blinked slowly, his eyes hazy before they focused on Kyung-hoon's face. "Ji-yoon," Kyung-hoon breathed, his voice trembling with relief. "You're awake." Ji-yoon tried to sit up but winced, clutching his side. "Easy," Kyung-hoon said quickly, supporting him. "You're still weak." "I heard you," Ji-yoon whispered, his voice hoarse. "Everything. You're not giving up your title because of me, are you?" Kyung-hoon looked away, guilt flickering across his face. Ji-yoon gave a tired chuckle. "I'm fine. We can go. Let's go to the palace now." Kyung-hoon frowned, studying him. "You're not fine. You're in pain. You can barely keep your eyes open." "I can walk," Ji-yoon insisted, gritting his teeth, trying to prove it. But as soon as he moved, a jolt of pain shot through his body. He bit his lip to keep from crying out, but Kyung-hoon saw it. "You're lying," Kyung-hoon said softly. Ji-yoon glared at him. "So what if I am? You can't throw everything away because of me." "I can. And I would," Kyung-hoon replied without hesitation. "Because to me, you're more important than any crown." That broke something inside Ji-yoon. His lips trembled, and the tears came rushing to his eyes. He looked away, ashamed. "You shouldn't say that. I don't deserve you." Kyung-hoon froze. "What are you talking about?" Ji-yoon shut his eyes, clenching his jaw, but the tears fell freely. "I've been lying to you, this whole time." Kyung-hoon's brows pulled together. "What do you mean? What lie?" But Ji-yoon shook his head, wiping his face with a shaky hand. "Forget it. It doesn't matter. We have to go." If we don't make it in time, everything you fought for, it'll be gone. Kyung-hoon stared at him, trying to read the truth behind his tears. But Ji-yun had already swung his legs over the edge of the bed, wincing again. "We have to go," he said, firmer this time. Reluctantly, Kyung-hoon stood, moving to support him as they headed out to find Tae-jin waiting with horses ready. Meanwhile, at the palace, Min-suk and Jun-ho knelt before the king and queen, their heads bowed low. Behind them, the captured assassins were forced to kneel by soldiers, bruised and bloodied. Min-suk raised his voice. "Your Majesties, these men were the ones who ambushed us at the border. We captured them with the help of the Crown Prince, who—" "The Crown Prince," the Queen gasped, stepping forward. "He's alive?" the King demanded. Jun-ho nodded quickly. "Yes, Your Majesty. But he had to stay behind with Jiaomi, who was gravely injured in the battle." Relief flooded the Queen's face. "Oh, thank the heavens. But why did he not return to the palace?" the King asked, frowning. He knew how little time he had left. Min-suk bowed his head. "Forgive us, Your Majesty. The prince feared that Jiaomi wouldn't survive the journey. He chose to seek treatment nearby." The Queen exchanged a worried look with the King. "Still, wouldn't the palace physicians be the better choice? Why keep him away?" She said the words softly, but her mind raced. Something isn't right. She didn't notice Min Seo lingering in the corner of the hall, stiffening at the news. Crown Prince Kyung-hoon survived. And Jiaomi survived too. Min Seo's eyes narrowed, her pulse racing. The plan had failed. Without drawing attention, she turned away and slipped into the corridor. Once alone, she pulled a folded note from her sleeve and handed it to her maid. "Send this to my father," she whispered urgently. "Tell him it's urgent." The plan didn't work. The maid bowed and hurried off, disappearing down the hall. But neither of them realized that from the shadows just behind the pillar, the chief maid stood silently, her sharp eyes watching everything. She narrowed her gaze at Min Seo's retreating figure. The palace gates loomed ahead as the hooves of the horses clattered across the stone pathway. Kyung-hoon held Ji-yun steady in front of him, his arms wrapped protectively around him. Ji-yun leaned back against his chest, trying to suppress every wince from the pain. Tae-jin rode ahead, while Jun-ho and Min-suk stood waiting at the entrance. The moment they arrived, Jun-ho exhaled sharply. "You made it," he said, voice laced with relief. Min-suk rushed forward, his eyes scanning Kyung-hoon and then Ji-yun. "Is he all right?" "He's stable," Kyung-hoon answered, carefully dismounting with Ji-yun in his arms. "But not fully healed." Without wasting another moment, they made their way to the inner court, where the king and queen waited, surrounded by court attendants. The king stood tall, but his face softened the moment he saw his son walk through the doors. "Kyung-hoon," the king murmured, stunned. The queen gasped, her hand flying to her chest. "You're alive," she breathed out, eyes shimmering. "Oh, thank the heavens." The king stepped forward, pride and relief briefly flickering in his eyes. "You've safeguarded your title, my son." But the moment their eyes shifted to Ji-yun, still clearly injured, their expressions dimmed. The queen's joy quickly gave way to concern and disapproval. "You brought her back?" she asked sharply, eyes narrowing at Ji-yun. "Kyung-hoon, you need to retract this decision to marry her." "Mother." "No," she cut in. "We don't have time for your stubbornness. Jin-suk will destroy us, don't you understand that?" Kyung-hoon's voice dropped cold. "Why are you so afraid of Jin-suk? What does he hold over you?" The queen looked to the king, who remained quiet. Neither answered. "Fine," Kyung-hoon said bitterly. "Then let me tell you something that should terrify you." He paused, lifting his chin. "We're already married." Silence. "And we've consummated the marriage." A sharp gasp escaped the queen's lips. Her hand gripped her head as if she might faint. You, what? Min Seo, eavesdropping from behind the column, covered her mouth in shock. Jun-ho and Min Suk exchanged a quick glance. Though it wasn't their place to speak, they both nodded solemnly to affirm Kyung-hoon's words. It's true, Jun-ho said. We were present. The queen's composure shattered. No. No, this isn't possible. You didn't do this. Do you know what you have just done? Ji-yun suddenly coughed violently. The queen's eyes narrowed. Take her to the royal infirmary. No, Kyung-hoon said, stepping in front of Ji-yun. I'll care for her myself. That made her pause. Her eyes flicked back and forth between them, suspicion slowly rising. Something was off. Something more than what they were admitting. But the king spoke then, his voice firm. Enough for tonight. We will settle this matter tomorrow at first light. A formal council will be held. With tension thick in the air, everyone dispersed. Kyung-hoon ignored the hovering maids and palace guards offering help, refusing even a royal palanquin. Instead, he carried Ji-yun in his arms through the halls, past curious stairs, and into his own chamber. He laid Ji-yun down gently on the bed, adjusting the pillows behind his head before taking a seat beside him. He carefully lifted the bandage to check the wound. It hadn't reopened. A wave of relief washed over him. He brushed the hair from Ji-yun's face, his voice soft. You said earlier, that you've been deceiving me. There was no response. Ji-yun, he said again, more firmly. What did you mean? But Ji-yun's chest rose and fell evenly, his face slack with sleep. Exhaustion had taken him. Kyung-hoon exhaled, his fingers brushing lightly against Ji-yun's hand. I'll wait, he whispered. But don't shut me out again. He leaned back in the chair, keeping vigil, his eyes never leaving the one person who now meant more to him than the entire throne. In the stillness of her private quarters, the queen paced in silence, the silk of her robes whispering against the polished floor. She finally turned to Lady Han, the chief maid, who stood nearby with her hands folded. Something is off with that girl, the queen murmured, voice tight with suspicion. Jialmi. I want you to find out everything about him. Lady Han bowed. Yes, your majesty. I'll begin the inquiries tonight. Quietly, the queen added, eyes sharp. I don't want Kyung-hoon getting wind of this. Meanwhile, the lanterns flickered warmly in Dae-hyun's household as the gates creaked open. Jun-ho and Min Suk stumbled through, their bodies sore and faces marked with fading bruises. Seo-jin gasped when she saw them. Oh my god, what happened to you two? Good to see you too, mother, Jun-ho muttered, brushing past her. Dae-hyun rushed over next, his brows drawn in concern. You're both hurt. Are you alright? Physically? Barely. Emotionally? Don't ask, Min Suk mumbled, wiping blood from the corner of his mouth. Seo-jin folded her arms and turned on Jun-ho. You ran out on your wedding day, for what? To chase after Ji-yun again? Look at you now. Jun-ho stopped in his tracks, shoulders stiff. He turned slowly, his eyes red-rimmed. You think this is what I wanted? You think this is fun for me? Seo-jin opened her mouth to speak, but Jun-ho cut her off. He chose him. The crown prince. His voice cracked. They got married, mother. They're married. He chose Kyung-hoon. Silence fell in the courtyard. I didn't protect him. I let your words get into my head. I let my fear control me. His voice was bitter, trembling with shame. And now he's gone. He turned and stormed off inside the house towards his room, slamming the door shut behind him. Inside, Jun-ho leaned against the door, chest heaving. He slid down to the floor, burying his face in his hands. All he could see was Ji-yun's blood on the ground, Kyung-hoon shielding him like his life depended on it, and Ji Yun doing the same in return. They were willing to die for each other, he whispered, voice breaking. And I couldn't even fight for him when it mattered. Meanwhile in the living room, Dae Hyun turned to Min Suk, troubled. Tell me everything. Min Suk sighed and sat down, wincing as he touched his ribs. We found them at a temple, getting married. Just the two of them and some old monk. Seo Jin scoffed, folding her arms tightly. This is madness. Deceiving the prince. I'm sure he wouldn't have gone through it if he knew who Ji Yun really is. Min Suk ignored her. Prince Kyung-hoon knew the truth. That Ji Yun's a man. And he didn't care. He still doesn't. Seo Jin's nose wrinkled. That's disgusting. Enough, Dae Hyun said sharply. He stood, shaking his head. There were assassins waiting for them on their way back. They barely made it out alive. That boy has been through hell and back, so stop your nonsense this instant. And you're going to see Sung Min now, aren't you? Seo Jin said quietly, bitterness laced in her voice. Dae Hyun didn't respond at first, already getting up. He should know what's going on. As he walked out the door, Seo Jin lingered by the window, watching him disappear into the dark. Her reflection in the glass stared back at her, resentful, lonely. She touched the windowsill. Why is it always Sung Min? The moon hung low over the city, casting silver shadows through the windows of Sung Min's grand but lonely estate. Dae Hyun pushed open the doors, the smell of rice wine hitting him like a wall. He found Sung Min slouched in his study, half drunk, his eyes glassy and unfocused, a bottle gripped loosely in one hand. Seriously? Dae Hyun muttered under his breath as he strode over. Without hesitation, he snatched the bottle out of Sung Min's hand. Hey! Sung Min growled, trying to sit up straighter. I was. Ji Yun is alive, Dae Hyun interrupted sharply. He's back at the palace. He made it although they were attacked by assassins aiming for the crown prince. Sung Min blinked slowly, his mind taking a few seconds to register the words. Assassins? Who could possibly? Then a slow grin stretched across his face. At least he's alive, he whispered. Then louder, laughing bitterly, good. That means my plans for revenge can continue. Dae Hyun folded his arms, staring at him knowingly. Just admit it. It's not just about your revenge. You're relieved he's okay. Sung Min scoffed and waved a hand. Don't get sentimental on me. Ji Yun is your son, Sung Min, Dae Hyun said softly. Your only child. You're allowed to love him. But Sung Min was already sinking deeper into the couch, his eyelids drooping. He is only a means to an end. That's all, he slurred, the smile fading. And then, he was out cold. Dae Hyun didn't have the time to tell him about Ji Yun's marriage to Kyung-hoon. He simply sighed and gently helped him up, supporting his weight with one arm. He half-carried, half-dragged his old friend to the bedroom and laid him on the bed. For a long moment, he stood at the edge of the room, watching Sung Min's chest rise and fall with quiet, drunken sleep. You used to laugh all the time, he whispered, voice soft with memory. You were the most kind-hearted man I knew. Now look at you. He walked to the door, pausing only once to glance back. I hope one day, you come back to who you used to be. Your Highness. Elsewhere in the city, at the darkened estate of Minister Jin Suk, chaos erupted. Crack. A small table splintered against the wall. You useless fools. Jin Suk roared as Min Seo's maid flinched before him, her head bowed so low her forehead nearly touched the floor. They returned to the palace alive. And the assassins, captured. He overturned another chair, his eyes wild with fury. This was your one job. He shouted at no one in particular. All they had to do was disappear on the road back. From the side of the room, his sister, Madame Jean, stepped forward quickly. Brother, please. You'll hurt yourself. Her husband, Jin Mu, a tall, imposing man and minister of land, moved to block a flying vase. We need to think rationally. I am thinking rationally. Jin Suk barked, breathing hard. That boy, Kyung-hoon, has made a fool of me. Of all of us. Just then, another messenger arrived, bowing quickly. My lord, you are summoned to the palace at first light. There will be an emergency council meeting to discuss the prince's unauthorized marriage to Jialmi. Jin Suk froze. The room held its breath. Then, a slow, venomous smile stretched across his face. Well, well. How generous of them to serve up this opportunity. He chuckled darkly, brushing dust off his sleeves. The arrogant prince has dug his own grave by making such a careless mistake. Let me see how he will wiggle out of this one. Tomorrow, we push him in. He turned to Jin Mu, eyes gleaming with ambition. Get our people. Ministers, advisors, nobles, everyone who owes us a favor. I want that room filled with our allies. Jin Mu nodded. Consider it done. Jin Suk stepped closer to the window, the moonlight illuminating his face. By tomorrow, Kyung-hoon will be stripped of his title, and I will finally begin the reign I was destined for. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe to the channel for more episodes.